Hey, guys. Okay, I already asked you to be thinking about this question. Have you ever known something to be true, but you still needed to be reminded? So an example, I was trying to think okay, let me help them understand what I'm trying to ask. I think of the little kid on the side of the pool, and they know their parent's gonna catch them. You've probably heard this analogy, this kind of story all the time, right? And the parent says, "I'm here, I promise I'm here." And the kid's like, "Okay, I need you to get a little closer to me." And you're like, "No, you literally, if you reach out, you can touch me. I'm right here, I'm right here." And they just need to be reminded that they're going to be caught if they jump, right? They know they're there. They see their dad right there in the water. They know if they reach out, they can touch him. In fact, they've done this a million times, and yet they still need to be reminded of the truth for them to jump. Well, here's the deal, guys. I love roller coasters. That's the deal. And I love them so much that people who don't like roller coasters don't make any sense to me at all. I don't understand you people, because the way that my heart begins to race as we start to incline, because there's usually a big drop, that's my favorite. More than the loops, I love the big drops. And the way that you can kind of incline as you go up and your heart starts to race, and then you get to the top, in that first drop, it's so big and your stomach just flies out of your body. It's such a rush. I love roller coasters. But I also love my friend Ashley. I love her. And Ashley hypothetically loves roller coasters. And this last March, we had an opportunity to go with our youth group to Six Flags in Dallas, Texas. And yeah. Cheers for Six Flags. Okay. And so we got to go, and I was excited, and Ashley was excited, and she couldn't wait to ride the rides, and she has a sister named Alyssa, and they're two of my best friends in Stillwater. And so I was pumped they were going with us as sponsors. And we're in a life group together, and so we've been amping up this idea that, man, I haven't got to ride a roller coaster in a long time, and I cannot wait. And she's really excited too. She hasn't said she's worried about it at all. I have no idea that this is maybe something she worries about. And we're on the van ride, and we're on our way there, and she is pumped. And we pull into the parking lot, and all of a sudden she looks, and she's like, "That's kind of a big roller coaster." And I was like, "Yeah, isn't that awesome? I can't wait to ride that." And we go, and we're walking through the park, and then we get in line, and it just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger as we're getting close. And all of a sudden, Ashley starts to doubt. I have a picture of the roller coaster, because as we were in line, I want you to see this. This is what our view looked like as we were walking up to see this roller coaster, this ride, if you have it. There it is. There it is behind me. Okay, there it is. So we're walking up. And this is like the people that are maybe 2 rides in front of us, and they're about to go down. And Ashley starts to have a panic attack, but she is a little dramatic. Okay, do you have a picture of Ashley, maybe? Ashley is the girl in the middle right here, okay? This is us in line waiting to ride this ride, and we're kind of laughing with Ashley. Really, we're laughing at Ashley, because she literally looks at me and goes, "I don't think I can do it." She starts to pace like this. "I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it." And people in line are turning around and looking at us, okay? Like, what is going on? And she goes, I feel like I'm gonna faint. "Morgan, feel my forehead. I think I'm hot. I think I'm gonna be sick. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna die. People die on those things all the time." And she just starts to panic, goes into panic mode. And I am laughing. I know that's a bad friend, but I can't help it. I am laughing at her reaction, because she knows the truth. She knows the truth. She knows that she will be fine. We've talked for weeks about how this is going to be so much fun. I remind her of the truth every time that she brings up a doubt. I start to remind her of the truth. "Ashley, I'm going to feel your forehead. No, you're not sick. You're fine. Ashley, I want you to look. See how that's all made out of steel and metal? And let me just tell you, there have been deaths on roller coasters. Yes, this is true. But if this was a common thing, if this happened all the time, we would not have these things in theme parks. It'd be too big of a liability. People ride these. Thousands of people ride roller coasters every day, and people don't die. You're going to be fine." Every time Ashley doubted, she voiced it, because she knew, I know this is true logically in my head. I knew it was true 3 weeks before it was time to ride it. I knew it was true in the van ride on the way there. I knew it was true as we were walking through the park, and now it's time to get on the ride, and I don't know if it's true anymore. And so she voices her doubts, and every time she voices her doubts, me and Alyssa, we remind her of the truth. And Ashley gets on the ride. She does. She gets on the ride. She steps out believing what is true. She just needed a little reminding. And sometimes, guys, no matter how deeply we know the truth, we still need reminding in order to get on the ride. We still need to be reminded. And this is what's going on in John's letter in 1 John. I don't know if you know this, but the people in this book, they already know who Jesus is. They already are believers in him. They have accepted this gospel proclaimed to them. In fact, in chapter 2, that's where we're going to be tonight, starting in verse 21, it says this: I write to you, not because you do not know the truth, but because you know it, and because no lie is of the truth. You see, John's audience, they know it. They know what is true about Jesus. But there's something going on here. You see, there's some people who are claiming to have like some different views of the truth. And because it's not absolutely opposite, they're kind of like trying to pass it off as being true as well. But John corrects this lie, this idea. He says, no, like even a slightly different view of Jesus is not an accurate view. It's a lie. It's not of the truth. And you know what is true about Jesus, right? You know like who he is. You know his identity, right? You do. I'm writing to you because you know this. I'm going to remind you of the truth. So here's the deal. There are a few things in my walk with Jesus. I've been following him for a long time, born into a home who loves him and praise him for that blessing. I grew up singing worship songs, going to VBSs, at all the church camps, in and out of people's homes in the congregation. I was surrounded by the truth, and I knew the truth, and yet I needed to be reminded of the truth as I've walked with Jesus. Specifically, in high school, there's a few truths I need to be reminded of. Kind of like in this letter. I need to be reminded, I played basketball, and I need to be reminded whenever I became a sophomore and my basketball playing time got cut. And then I was a junior, and everybody started being moved up to like varsity, and I like wasn't. And I knew my identity was found in Jesus. I've been told this since I was like this big. But I needed to be reminded of that truth. And so as I started struggling with this reality that like I'm not getting the playing time I want or I desire, my parents came alongside me and they reminded me that regardless of the amount of playing time you get on a sports team, your identity is intact because you're in Jesus. And I just needed to be reminded. I knew that. I sang about it week in and week out, but I needed to be reminded. Another thing that needed to be reminded of me was actually started when I was in junior high. And I'm a girl, and something that like you start to argue with your mom about is like what clothes you're allowed to wear. If you're a follower of Jesus, and if your parents are followers of Jesus, they're typically put up a fight for that one. They say, no, you're not walking. My dad had told me one time, I wouldn't let you sleep in our house in that, let alone go out of the house in that, okay? And so this like became an argument that we would have. And I had to be reminded over and over and over again as I wanted to fight this battle of why can't I wear this? This is what's popular. This is what all the girls are wearing. I'm gonna be the only girl at this swim party that's not in that swimsuit. You know, whatever it was, whatever the argument was. I had to be reminded by my parents that no, your body is not your own. You committed, little girl, when you were 9 years old to give your life to Jesus, and part of that commitment is that he gets your body. Your body is not your own, it belongs to Christ. So you get to honor him with your body. You are not walking out of the house in that outfit. We are not buying that outfit. I had to be reminded. I had to be reminded of the truth as I grew up. But there are two things more than anything else in my walk with Jesus that I needed to be reminded of. Two things. And I feel like if I have a job to do here tonight, my job is to be a reminder to you of these two things. The first one is this. My dad has told me this since I was little, and he started really pressing it in whenever I went to college. And then actually, I went to a Christian college, Ozark Christian College in Joplin, Missouri. Yeah, it's awesome. If you're considering ministry, you should definitely go there. Plug. But seriously, it was awesome. It was life-changing. And I went there, and I was getting ready to graduate, and I didn't really know exactly what the Lord was going to do with me after this point. And my dad happened to be the person that came in to speak to all the graduates the night before graduation. And this was his message to us. He said, as you lead and as you follow Jesus, this is going to be the question that you're going to ask yourself over and over and over again. And he was right. It's this question: is it worth it? Is it really worth it? And my dad looks at all of us and he starts telling us the kingdom of heaven is kind of like this treasure that's in this field, and you happen upon it. And if you happen upon it, then you go and sell everything you have to buy that field because it's worth it. It is worth it. And he said, guys, as you ask yourself that question, always remember it's worth it. And then my dad gave me this book because I'm a geek and I love to study. I especially love to study the Bible. And so he bought me some books to study the Bible, and he would write in each one of my books, remember, Morgan, it's worth it. And every time I opened those to study, as I opened those books to study for this tonight, I read those words, remember, Morgan, it's worth it. Remember, Morgan, it's worth it to follow him. And some of you guys are already there. Some of you guys, like, even last night, you kind of had these awesome conversations, and you're like, I'm on fire. Yeah, it is worth it. And then there are others of you that I think in this room are asking a very good but unspoken question. And it's this: why? Why is it worth it? That is a good question. That is a very, very good question. Why is it worth it? And here is the truth. We're talking tonight about believing and denying. We will only truly commit, truly believe. We will only truly commit to things if it's truly worth it to us to do so. And that's why that question is important. Because if you don't know why it's worth it, then I don't really think you're going to be able to have like the gusto to really truly commit. If you don't know why it's worth it, I don't think you're going to have like the perseverance to stay committed. And in order for us to commit to following Jesus every day, no matter what, to truly commit, we need to know why, so we can know if it's worth it or not. Is it worth it? So, I believe it's worth it. And here's why. It is worth it to follow Jesus, no matter what, every single day, because, are you ready? You need to write this one down. Jesus is who he says he is. I'm going to give you a moment because I don't see all of you writing that. Jesus is who he says he is. You can also write beside that. That means that Jesus is the Christ. Jesus is the Messiah. He is God. That's who Jesus is. And that is why it is worth it to follow him. Because Jesus is God, it is worth it to follow him. Now, here is why I think we get confused as young people. And I even think maybe some of you last night could have been confused. Who knows? And here's why. I think that we commit sometimes to following Jesus, or we count the cost of following Jesus for reasons that are not really like the truth. They're not the truth. There may be versions of the truth, but they're not the truth. Maybe we commit to following Jesus because we think it'll make our life go easier this way. Or maybe we commit to believing and following in Jesus because it just makes me feel really good right now because we're singing this song and all my friends are crying and going forward, and so I really feel like this is what I need to do too. And so we decide I'm going to commit to Jesus. Or maybe we decide we're going to commit to Jesus, we're going to believe in him because it would please our parents. Or maybe it's opposite. Maybe like our parents, it's really not going well at home and we think things are about to go south, that a divorce is about to take place. And maybe if I just start making different choices, like right choices, like maybe I could just follow Jesus, then maybe my parents will stay together. Maybe God would just kind of grant that for me. Maybe some people decide they're going to follow Jesus because they think it'll be fun. I mean, this week is fun, is it not? Has it been fun? Okay, that was pathetic. Has it been fun? Really? Okay. It has been fun. So sometimes people say, well, then I want to truly commit to Jesus because it'll be fun. Maybe people decide to commit to Jesus because it's the right thing to do. Maybe they decide to commit to Jesus because it's what their friends do. Yeah, it's worth it. It just requires that I basically be a good person, make right choices, go to church every once in a while, maybe give some money in the offering plate. That's what it means, right? That's why I follow Jesus, right? No! That is not why we follow Jesus. Those kinds of reasons may be good reasons to decide to work out or eat healthy or join a basketball team or even to go to CIY 2018 move in Durango, Colorado. But those are not the right reasons to decide to follow Jesus. Ashley got on the roller coaster. You remember Ashley, yes? Ashley got on the roller coaster. And then, guys, she flipped out. I have never seen someone flip out so much in my life on a roller coaster. I laughed, belly laughed, and cried the entire ride at her and felt like an awful human, but it was hilarious because we get in the ride, she's sitting beside me, we strap in, she gets more nervous, and as soon as we take off, she buries her head in my arm. I mean, crying, snot dripping on me, ew, gross. And she is going, I can't do it. I need to get off. I need to get off. I need to get off. And I said, it's too late, Ashley. We are going on this ride. It's going to be fun, and we're going up. And then I did the meanest thing. I wasn't going to, I did the meanest thing. We're going on this ride, and it kind of hits this lull where it could be done. And because she'd been freaking out and her eyes were like this in my arm, like claw marks in my arm, all these things, I thought, I'm going to trick her. And so I said, Ashley, it's over. And she opens her eyes. It's not over. And she freaked out and maybe hit me and then buried herself back in me. But here's the deal. She could be scared all she wanted. She had committed to the ride. There's no getting off. And can I just tell you, friends, that one of the hardest parts of following Jesus is that you can get off the ride even after you've decided to commit. You can. And that makes it hard. And that's why you have to know why you're committing to Jesus, why it's worth it. And if it's for any of these other reasons, if you decide to follow Jesus for any other reason, except for the fact that Jesus is God, came to this world, died on a cross, rose from the grave 3 days later, is seated now at the right hand of God the Father, and will return someday. If you decide to follow him for any other reason than that, then you have underestimated your decision. You will bail as soon as the ride gets bumpy. And can I just tell you, if you don't ever grasp this truth of the identity of who Jesus is, then you're never going to make it as a committed follower of Jesus. You just won't. Because all the other reasons, my life will be easier, my friends are doing this with me, all the other reasons when push comes to shove, they aren't worth it. And we only truly commit to things if it's worth it to us. People are going to lie to you. People are going to lie to you. Satan works that way. And the primary lie that Satan will use is to challenge the person of Jesus Christ. Everything hinges for us as believers on if Jesus is who he says he is. Listen to how John continues to remind his readers of this as we go on in verse 22. It says, "Who is the liar but he who denies that Jesus is the Christ? This is the Antichrist, he who denies the Father and the Son. No one who denies the Son has the Father. Whoever confesses the Son has the Father also. Let what you heard from the beginning abide, remain in you. If what you heard from the beginning abides in you, then you too will abide in the Son and in the Father. The lie here is that Jesus is not the Christ. Jesus is not the Messiah they've been waiting for. Jesus is not God. And if Jesus is not God, if he is just a man, then we are still dead in our sin. Following him is not only not worth it, it's actually a really foolish thing to do. And if Jesus is God, but he died, and he's still dead, then we have no hope. We are still dead in our sin without hope. All these doubts around here that you wrote down, that's our reality. We're dead in those sins. And if Jesus is God, but we switched the truth a little bit and said he did die on the cross, but he did not rise from the dead, then we have no hope of new life in him. We have no hope of new life. But we know, friends, we know, just like this audience from this book, that Jesus is God incarnate. And if Jesus is God, think about that. If Jesus is God and Jesus died on our behalf, then what happened is he defeated sin in his death on the cross. And if Jesus is God and he rose from the grave, then he defeated death by his resurrection. And if Jesus is God, we get to be new people. If Jesus is God, then even though we have royally screwed up, there is a way back into a relationship with God again. My